So last week we were at the park, which was so beautiful and so much fun. And we got to celebrate a few baptisms, which were awesome. And I'm still on a high from all of that. And just seeing some people that I love and a new friend here, Preston, sitting here on my back patio, who I get to celebrate his fire, and God's not going to take that away. What he began in you, he'll bring to completion. Um, but I think a great our topic today, or our section in Paul's letter to the church in Ephesus, is a really great sort of um, next conversation after a baptism. What does this new life look like? What does it look like to live a life filled with the Spirit, sent by Jesus? What does all that new life and new journey really look like? So I'm going to open up to Ephesians chapter 4 and read verses 17 to 32. Ephesians 4, 17 to 32 says this. Paul says this, and this is right after he talks about all the variety of giftings and callings, or it's a word for calling, that God designed us in these different ways that we collectively would look like Jesus, not alone, but together as a community. We really make up a better, fuller, larger picture of what Jesus is like. And after all this, when he talks about unity, all of us coming together, says this in verse 17, "Now this I say and testify in the Lord, that you must no longer walk as the Gentiles do in the futility of their minds. They are darkened in their understanding, alienated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to their hardness of heart." I just love that Paul can say these sorts of things, because if I started writing letters to churches and I'm like, well, these ignorant people that are calloused, yada, yada, people would be like, little harsh, Gerald. But I can quote Paul and then we can process it together. Alienated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them. Due to their hardness of heart, they have become callous and have given themselves up to sensuality, greedy, to practice every kind of impurity. But that is not the way that you learn Christ, assuming that you have heard about him and were taught in him, as the truth is in Jesus, to put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. I'm going to pause there and remind you about how Paul would say things like, you know, the things that I want to do, I don't do. The things that I don't want to do, I do. Wretched man that I am, who will save me from this body of death? I find it fascinating that Paul talks frequently like, take off the old self, put on the new self. But you see this battle within Paul of, I'm trying. It's really hard. Some days it's working, some days it's not. You see this constant struggle or battle to attempt to wrangle the flesh into obedience, and it doesn't really necessarily work all that well. But he says to put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and be renewed in the spirit of your minds, to put on the new self. Then he says this, verse 25, "Therefore, having put away all falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another." Like, it goes back to the unity theme. We're one. Like, we're going to be honest with each other, help each other, love each other. Then he says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger." Don't even go to bed angry. and give no opportunity to the devil. Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only talk that is good for building up as it fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. Do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. Isn't that the dream? We'd be tender-hearted and gracious and forgiving and full of compassion and love for each other. It's such a beautiful image and a great dream. Um, it starts off. Oh, we got a recording playing of the passage. Yeah. So one of the key things. You need my help?
Yeah,
I'll help you.
I did.
You got the audio Bible playing. um, it starts off talking about hardness of heart or stubbornness is pretty early on in this. Um, these people are darkened, alienated because of their hardness of heart, they're callous, that sort of thing. And I think one of the key things that holds us back from becoming like Jesus, that holds us back from growth and development, and Christian just means little Christ, little Christian. It was a derogatory term, making fun of the people that followed like Jesus because they look like Jesus. So what keeps us from looking like Jesus, that people go, man, these people have been with Jesus. These are another passage says these look like uneducated common men, but they've been with Jesus. They look like Jesus. Um, so if you think about what holds people back from looking like Jesus, what holds you back from looking like Jesus when you don't look like Jesus? What holds me back from looking like Jesus when I don't look like Jesus? What holds a person back? And the passage here Paul implies, that it's stubbornness. Stubbornness holds you back from looking like Jesus. Or the term hardness of heart holds us back from looking like Jesus. Or I'll use another word, another phrase, teachability holds us back from looking like Jesus. Teachability. As some of you might have seen a quote that I put up by Lucas Pulley: if you have 1,000 strengths, but your single weakness is teachability, you will struggle. If you have 1,000 weaknesses, but your single strength is teachability, you will thrive. How good is that? Let me say that again. If you have 1,000 strengths, but your single weakness is teachability, you will struggle. But if you have 1,000 weaknesses, but your single strength is teachability, you will thrive. I think very important for us to always come to life as beginners, not as experts. Well, and that's what humility is that we don't come thinking that we already have the answer. That we come with a spirit of humility, teachability. We're learners. We're always learners. I think one of the biggest obstacles to success is past successes. One of the biggest obstacles to success is past successes, because we think we already know the answer, right? If you fall in love with your tools or your approach, you lose the capacity to change them or to improve them or to get better. And so part of growth and improvement and development is to not be stubborn, but to have teachability. We all, every single one of us, have got to have teachability. And one of the biggest struggles here in hardness of heart or stubbornness is, even as I'm talking about stubbornness or hardness of heart, most of you are thinking about someone else that's stubborn. or someone else that has a hard heart. And I think we all have to look in the mirror and say, where and in what areas of my life do I feel like I already have it figured out? Where and in what areas of my life am I stuck in doing things the same way? How might God want to grow me and stretch me and move my thinking forward? But I think I already know the answer. And because I already know the answer, I am unwilling to hear the new things that the Spirit of God might be teaching me or saying to me. We get set. We get set in relationship rhythms, parenting rhythms. You get set in time management, even dinner options or music choices. Our stubbornness can hold us back in work. Our stubbornness can hold us back in mission. Our stubbornness can hold us back in life. And so the real challenge is to think like a beginner again, to have the courage to see things as if we've never seen them before, to have sort of soft eyes. T.S. Eliot says this: we shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. To arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. And so how many of us look at people in our lives and we think we already have them figured out. We have a script in our head of who they are. And so we quit discovering them. We quit learning who they are and what they're like. People are deep. There's a lot to them, the people around you. But yet you've got a script in your mind that you already have a narrative of who that person is and what they're like. And because of that, it actually hinders you from discovering who a person is and what their potential is and how they're made in the image of God and what their gifts are, and to unleash them and their calling and their capacity, because you've quit thinking like a beginner. Right? You quit being a learner. I think we have to do this with Scripture. We've got to look at the stories of Jesus as if we've never read them. I love seeing someone that's brand new in the faith. They open up a story that Jesus told. They read it and discover it because it's the first time that they've ever read it. And they get so fired up and they see things that maybe you haven't seen before. I think if we erase the whiteboard of what we think we know, eliminate all that stuff that we have written all across the whiteboard, and we look at a story as if we've never heard it before, it's amazing what God will bring to light. You know, when we talk about APES, you could take every story that you read about the life of Jesus, and we tend to read it through the lens of our own giftings or callings. And so you can read a story like the Good Samaritan, and here's a great project for you. Read the story of the Good Samaritan through the lens of a shepherd, a counselor, a caretaker, someone who is meeting the needs of other people. Then read the story of the Good Samaritan through the lens of an evangelist, someone who wants to extend good news to those that are outside of the family of God. Start to read these stories through different lenses, put a different hat on, and start to think about Scripture in ways that you've never thought about it before. I think we've oftentimes boxed God or people or places in, and we've enslaved our own imagination. I love the metaphor that if you really want to get good at chess, remove your queen. You really want to get good at chess, take your queen off the board and learn how to use all your other pieces. Because your queen is sort of your, that's your Jack Bauer, to use an old 24 metaphor. The queen is your super tough ninja that can take anyone out. It move and as far as possible across the board, take anybody out. Your queen is the one that people rely on too heavily, but you remove the queen, you learn how to use your rook, your knights, your pawns, everyone else. Then put the queen back on the board. You put the queen back on the board later, you're going to be a better chess player. So start to look at and understand, think like a beginner again, see different people and positions and potentials that God might want to call you into. But it's hardness of heart, it's stubbornness that keeps us from growing into maturity in Christ likeness. We think we already have the answers. We arrogantly think that we already have the answers, that we already know what we're supposed to do, and that everyone around us is just stupid because they don't see it like us. They don't understand it like us. I think the key to this whole section that I just read, the key to the whole section is verse 20. Verse 20 says, "But that is not the way that you learned Jesus." That's not the way you learned Jesus. The focus of Christianity is not the Christian life. The focus of Christianity is Christ. I'm going to repeat that again. The focus of Christianity is not the Christian life. The focus of Christianity is Christ. And so if you think about Paul and his struggles that he oftentimes had, where he would call himself the chief of sinners and say the things that I want to do, I don't do, things I don't want to do, I do. How many of us, and this was Paul's former life as a Pharisee, is his life was focused on behavior modification. His life was focused on making the right choices and not making the wrong choices. His life was focused on making sure that I know the scriptures inside and out. And then I, in turn, obey the scriptures really well. He was a Pharisee of the Pharisees, right? But he said, I consider all of that to be garbage compared to knowing Jesus. And so the goal was always to know Christ, to know Jesus. That the way, the truth, and the life is not a set of ideas. It's not a prescribed to-do list that we adhere to, but it's a person that we believe in. Let me say that again. The way of Christianity is not a set of ideas that we believe, or a bunch of things that we adhere to, or a to-do list that we try to check off, but it's a person that we believe in. It's a person that we trust. It's a person that we love. So we are invited to follow Jesus. That's why Paul would say, follow me as I follow him. That's why John the Baptist would say, look at Jesus. You know, the goal of all of us is to say, we want other people to know him, to know Christ, to fall in love with Jesus. The way is a person. And so at the end of the day, our job is not to say, hey, do all these things, accomplish all these goals, because the Pharisees did that. And they were so far from the heart of the Father. Our goal is to say, look at Jesus. He's the author of our faith. He's the perfecter of our faith. He's the way. He's the truth. He's the life. He's salvation. He's freedom. He's the lover of our hearts and souls. He's the one who desires relationship with us. Christ in you is the hope of glory. The focus of Christianity is Jesus. And think about it this way. People say a variety of different things. They'll say things like, golfing is life, right? Or they'll say something like, work is life. Or they'll say something like, beer is life. Or they'll say something like, my kids are life. Now, let me ask you this. If golf is life, is that good news? Is that good news for someone's spouse that they say, golf is my life? It's probably not good news, right? How about work is life? Is that good news? Is that good news? How about beer is life? Is that good news for someone? How about my kids are life? Is that good news? Well, I mean, some days, but man, some days not so much. And what happens when they grow up and leave the house, right? And what happens to your kids if your whole life revolves around them and you worship them? What happens if they're bad? What happens if they reject you? What happens if you lose them, right? So at the end of the day, there's this bigger Jesus is life that puts everything else into focus. You go, everything else that people tend to live for or find their hope in or find their confidence or their identity in, they no longer have to put all the weight on their kid or their job or their health or anything else because they're satisfied in Jesus. Jesus is life. Jesus is the point. If Jesus is my life, let me ask you this. If Jesus is your life, what does that mean for your significant other? What does that mean for your coworkers? What does that mean for your friends? What does that mean for your children? If Jesus is your life, if Jesus is your obsession, I'm going to say this, and you've heard me say this before, you cannot go wrong with more Jesus. You just can't. You can't go wrong with being more obsessed with Jesus. You can't go wrong with reading his stories and recalibrating your life around the teachings and the words and the ways of Jesus. You just can't go wrong with that. The way, the truth, and the life is not an idea, but a person that we follow. WWJD, which some of you remember that big fad back in the day, WWJD is a great idea, actually, if it's lived out. And unfortunately, that whole movement had been known just connected to like a purity culture sort of thing. What would Jesus do? But it's got to be everything in life. What would Jesus do with my enemies? What would Jesus do with my family life? What would Jesus do in my neighborhood? What would Jesus do if Jesus was dealing with this sort of obstacle or health issue or whatever it is? You start asking WWJD along the way, Jesus is the center of the whole thing. How would Jesus live this moment? How would Jesus live this day? How would Jesus change this workplace? How would Jesus live in this family? How would Jesus, you start asking that. It's game changer, right? But at the end of the day, again, and Paul says it repeatedly all through his letters, he must increase and I must eat. Well, that was John. Um, it's Christ in me that's my life and my hope. And, I can do nothing except through Christ who strengthens me, right? And so there's all this constant, like, I need Jesus. I'm incapable. I can't do it. I can't do it on my own. I will fail. Jesus is my life. And so we live life like beating our chest, going, God, I just need Jesus. I need more Jesus. I can't do it. In fact, if I take my eyes off of Jesus, this was the metaphor Paul kept using is you run the race with your eyes looking forward toward the prize. Now the prize isn't I achieved it. Look at all the crap I got done. I knocked out my to-do list. I accomplished my goals. I got a raise. I made this sort of unachievable thing achievable. Look at me. I am great. I'm standing on top of the mountain. I've won the NBA finals. Whatever it is, right? Look at me. That's not the goal. The goal, he says, we fix our eyes on Jesus. The goal is that we reach the one who created us to be found in a relationship with him, to be secure and complete, that we no longer need to use other people or other things. Now, look at what happens if we don't do that. The result is, and Paul references a whole bunch of different things, sensuality and greedy and impurity and anger and theft and all these sorts of different things. It just throws a whole bunch of different things out there. Okay. So you've either got what Paul came out of, which was religion. Paul came out of religion. Paul came out of basically like you go through the motions and do all the right things and say all the right things and know all the right information. But he said that was dead and it's rubbish and it's garbage compared to knowing Jesus. So it's not religion. But then he mentions the other thing, which is idolatry. Okay, so there's either Jesus is Lord or something else is Lord. Now, if something else is Lord, I'm just going to throw, because he throws some random ones out there, but you can put literally anything in there. Let me ask you this. There are things in our life that you could say are tools or gifts. Let's just play with me here for a minute. A cell phone. What are the pluses of a cell phone? What are the positives of a cell phone? Put it in the chat. What are the positives of a cell phone? What are the positives? You guys here, you can tell me.
Telepathy.
Huh?
Telepathy.
Telepathy?
You can just send your thoughts right to somebody else.
Oh, you can sing your thoughts directly to someone else. It's good.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. Yep. Open flow of communication. Good. What's that?
You're like in an emergency, you have it on you to get a hold of someone.
In an emergency, you can get a hold of someone. Yep. Absolutely. What else? What are the other benefits of a cell phone?
Talk to people all over the world.
You can talk to people all over the planet. It's great. Yep. Good. Information. Yeah. Our cell phones are supercomputers. You can find anything. For sure. Information. Good. What else? What are the other benefits to a phone?
People can find you in there.
Yeah, people can find you. Yep, you're accessible.
You don't have to lug big cameras around to take pictures.
Yeah, you can take pictures. You can capture moments and take pictures all over the place, anywhere. Yep,
You miss your big
that's
cameras
good.
there.
You can play games, right? You eliminate boredom. Okay, good. All right, what are the negatives to a cell phone?
You have a big camera.
What are the negatives?
People can call
Suck
you
up your
whenever.
time.
People can call you whenever. Yeah, what else?
Biggest thing, addictive.
Suck up your time.
Addiction. Yep, suck up your time.
You have a camera everywhere.
Can be all consuming. Obsession. Social media. Good.
Negative information.
Negative information. Yep, it's good. The fact that you never have downtime or time to think or wonder or be creative, right?
Negative thing. People can cheat at trivia.
Oh, wait, we're saying
People can cheat at trivia. Cheaters! Freaking cheaters. Cheating at trivia. Yep. Saying things. Yep. Saying things to people you'd never say face to face. Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so if I said my cell phone is a tool, would you agree with that? Is that a good thing?
it can be.
The cell phone is a tool? Is it a good thing if a cell phone is a tool? Sure. Now, what if cell phone is my God, my ever-present source of joy and hope and fulfillment? Is that a good thing? Nope. Okay, so if I say cell phone is Lord, good idea? Now, I've seen people walking around Adams Ricky Park where a cell phone is Lord and like running into things and their kids are next to them. Like they look like literal zombies just walking around like bam, right? Unaware of what's happening around them. We've all been there, right? Cell phone is Lord. Not a good thing. Okay, let me ask you this. Here's another one. Food. Food. What are the benefits to food? What are the benefits?
Nutrition.
Nutrition. Yep. Keeps you alive. It's good. Keeps you alive. It's good. You guys are really practical. It's great. I'm going to say it tastes great. It's delicious. It is delicious. I love how it
I was
tastes.
going to say again, instant gratification.
Instant gratification. Good. Yep.
Not unless you get, like, take
Nourishment. There you go. Yep. What else? What are the other benefits to food?
It brings people around the table.
Social interaction. There you go. Yep. You know, food's mentioned on like every other page of the Bible. A number of the miracles are around food. Yep. People feel loved because of food. Dinner parties. There you go. Yep. Jesus chose to be remembered by food. He said, when you eat the bread and drink the wine, you remember me. Like that's it. I think the greatest symbol for a church should be a table spread with a group of people, not a steeple, but a table. Yep. So food is seriously so important. Good. Agreed. Absolutely. Now, what are the downsides to food?
Broccoli.
What are the negatives? Someone said broccoli here. I like roasted broccoli.
I like broccoli.
Gluttony. Yep. Gluttony, obesity, overindulgence. There you go. Junk foods. Yep. Stuff that's not good for you. It's harming your body. Okay. Fast food. There you go. Eating disorders. Yep.
It's not food's fault.
It's not.
The gun.
Someone just said it's not food's fault. Okay. So If I say food is good, it's a gift from God. Agreed? Good? Now, what if I say food is life? Some of you would go, "Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah, food is life."
Technically, it
Now,
kind of
now,
is.
now, what if food is Lord? If food is Lord, if food is God, it's a good thing or bad thing? Food takes over your life. It's a purpose of your existence. Good thing, bad thing. Someone direct messaged me, maybe bacon. I love it. I love it. Okay. So you can take this with anything in life. So this is Paul's point, right? Religion, trying to somehow make myself right with God, that's all rubbish. But then he says this, if Jesus isn't your life, something else will be. If Jesus isn't your life, maybe food will be. Maybe work will be. Maybe money will be. Maybe sex will be. Maybe your cell phone will. Maybe social media will. Something else will become that Lord of your life. And anything that is a gift can be good, but if it becomes a God, it'll kill you. It'll ruin you. It'll destroy you, is the idea. Make sense? It makes sense? In fact, what happens is the person who says food is my God, is my life, they actually enjoy food less because it enslaves them. It makes them unhealthy. It makes them sick. It enslaves them. They enjoy the gift less because the gift has become a God. Anyone who has idolized another person who they're obsessed with and made them like a God over their life, they smother them. They actually hurt the thing that they claim to love, right? And so if we're not careful and we make anything else sort of a God or a Lord, it actually is to our detriment, not to our help. So Jesus is the focus of the whole thing. This new life is not about me improving or me declining. It's about me gazing at Jesus. It's about you gazing at Jesus. It's about Christ, who is our life, who is our hope, who is our joy, who is the one that we love and are obsessed with. And so Paul says at the end of this, and I love this, now, in light of all this, build each other up. Show grace. Be tenderhearted. Forgive each other. Listen, be kind. You've seen the bumper stickers. Listen to them, all right? Be kind to one another. Don't see other people as obstacles to overcome or annoyances to delete, but people that you desire to see flourish. People that you desire to see flourish, made in the image of God, loved by the good, good Father. We want to see people come into the fullness of who God designed them to be. When Christ is your life, you look at everyone and everything and every place through a different lens. And you see beauty and potential, and whatever is broken, there's hope for restoration and healing and life. So I'm going to ask that God would give us this perspective, not just personally, but in each of our micro churches and your circles of influence, your friends, your family, that God would take you out as people that are obsessed with Jesus. And at the end of the day, I want people to say about you, like, you know what, that person, they said some weird stuff, or they were sort of annoying at times, but man, they're obsessed with Jesus and they're full of love and they cared about me and they listened to me. And at the end of the day, if we come away with this reputation of we're Jesus people, we're not perfect people, but we're Jesus people, and you can't go wrong with more Jesus. You start looking at life, looking at the world through the lens of Jesus, the hope of Jesus, the words of Jesus, the life of Jesus. But God, I pray for each person who is watching this live or recorded, for each micro church represented here. I just ask that we would be so fixed on you, that our eyes would be focused on you as we run the race, that we would run toward you, It matters what we're running toward. Help us not to run toward the wrong thing. I don't want to win the wrong prize. I don't want to go after something that is unsatisfying. I don't want a Lord that's not good for me, a God that would consume me, an idol that would crush me. But Jesus, I want you. And I know that everything else in life that I enjoy will be enjoyed better because those things are seen as gifts, not gods. And Jesus, you're our God. You're our hope. You're our life. You're our joy. You're our aim and our purpose. As Paul said, Christ who is our life. And Jesus, you're our life. You're our hope. You're the way, the truth, and the life. And so I just ask for each of us and for each of our micro churches that we would lean into you, that as we get off course throughout the day, throughout the week, that we would recalibrate around you, Jesus, that we would think WWJD about every area of our life, whether we eat or drink or whatever we do, the company that we keep, the hospitality that we show, the workplaces that we are engaged in, Jesus, that you would be the center of all of that. And give us a good day and a good week, and bless the fathers out there, and redeem the stories and the struggles that so many people have on this day as well. We'll talk to you later. Amen.